In New Haven, Connecticut, there once lived a homeless guy. He constantly battled poverty and was unable to improve his lot in life. However, he came upon something significant one day that forced him to choose between acting morally and seizing a significant chance. His choice triggered a chain of unforeseen circumstances that he was not prepared for. Most people find that winters in New England can be difficult, and nobody likes having to cope with the severe weather, especially someone like Elmer Alvarez, who was homeless. He was more vulnerable to the frigid winds and quickly falling snow than someone who had a warm house, car, and workplace. Elmer, however, had previously spent a number of winters in New Haven and knew full well what the next months would be like. His battle with drug addiction had set him on a rocky path and made his life much more difficult in the past. Even though he didn't have a reliable place to sleep every night, he was able to conquer his addictions by going to NA meetings, which is an incredible accomplishment given the circumstances. Finding a route out of homelessness, though, still plagued him. It's far easier said than done to get off the streets. On a cold November morning, however, Elmer stepped straight up to a chance while walking the well-known streets. There was a piece of paper in the middle of the path. Elmer paused and looked at the forgotten message, something that most passers-by would not notice. The paper was a recently signed check, not a scrap of trash or a thrown-away receipt. When he saw the sum written on the line, air sucked out of his lungs. The check was for an astounding $10,000. That type of cheddar, approved and ready to go, might have changed Elmer's life. He was sprinting to the closest bank, and nothing was stopping him. However, Elmer never once considered taking the money. He flipped the check over, and sure enough, there was a phone number on the reverse side. After wandering the streets, Elmer eventually located a buddy who had a cell phone. He and his friend called the check's address since he speaks Spanish. Meanwhile, a well-known entrepreneur heard her phone ring in an office a few streets away. Self-made real estate tycoon Roberta Hosey served as president and CEO of Outreach School of Real Estate and Outreach Realty Services. She picked up the phone. Elmer's acquaintance on the other side clarified that his friend wanted to give her back the large check that he had discovered. Roberta couldn't believe it. Had she truly misplaced something so significant? She suddenly realized he was correct as she rummaged through her purse, not thinking it was possible. She agreed to see him right away since she was shocked that someone had the audacity to reach out. Roberta launched Facebook Live while out on the street to record the stranger's good deeds resolution. She couldn't express how grateful she was to Elmer and his buddy for acting morally. His acquaintance informed Roberta that her hero was actually homeless, but Elmer was too kind to call attention to himself. This resonated with Roberta personally, adding to the significance of the events. You see, Roberta had to overcome comparable challenges to Elmer's before she became a powerful real estate queen. Roberta was 17 years old when she became pregnant. She had to leave school to take care of her child. She had been struggling financially before, but now that she had another mouth to feed, she and her kid were forced to go into shelters in order to stay off the streets. Roberta was able to escape the pattern, however, because of a pivotal internship at Yale University that shot her out of crippling poverty. Her stay in the shelters remained in her memory. Her background let her realize that her encounter with Elmer was not an accident. She made the decision to use the chance to give back significantly. After telling Elmer to wait there, she quickly returned to her office to retrieve her checkbook. She was determined to do more for Elmer than simply provide him with a little reprieve. She got the idea from a follower's comment while brainstorming on Facebook Live. With a smile, Roberta declared, "I'll teach him how to fish." Back on the street, Elmer started crying with gratitude as Roberta gave him a check. This one made out to him. After exchanging hugs, Roberta told him her own experience. Elmer was amazed at how much they shared in common. They parted ways, their newly discovered bonds still fresh in their hearts. Roberta started implementing her strategy at that point. Their reunion was quicker than Roberta had anticipated due to prejudice. Despite having a signature and identification, Elmer was shocked when the bank refused to assist him when he attempted to cash his check. The fact that Elmer wasn't their usual client led them to believe it was phony. A brief phone conversation with Roberta dispelled their unjustified mistrust of the homeless man.
Roberta set up a meeting with Elmer 2 weeks later. More than 13,000 people learned about Elmer's good deed through her Facebook video, which also caught the attention of the mainstream media. The room was crowded with people who applauded Elmer as he entered. When he agreed to meet, this was not what he had anticipated, and he was completely overwhelmed. Even worse, he was going to experience even greater surprise. First, Miss Millionaire Mindset, an organization that fights poverty, gave Elmer a thank you certificate. Roberta then revealed her real strategy, which was to teach Elmer how to fish rather than merely compensate him for his honesty and generosity. He was going to learn how to position himself for success from Roberta. Elmer would get instruction to help him become more proficient in English before courses began. However, Roberta was even more surprised. As she described the best aspect of her proposal, her voice was strained by emotion. Roberta informed him that she had located a flat for him and his fiancée to reside in, with the first 6 months' rent and expenses fully paid. Feelings overflowed. Elmer gave Roberta an embrace that said all he was unable to. His face was smeared with tears, and he felt relieved that he wouldn't have to spend another night on the streets. But even beyond the 6-month gift, Roberta had considered everything. Elmer was given a standing job interview with her colleague's real estate business after completing the real estate training. He could start the interview as soon as he felt ready. He said, "I'm ready now," with such joy and appreciation. However, Roberta's ultimate objective was not to fulfill all of Elmer's wishes. She aspired to genuinely give back. They got together a few weeks later to check on him and his progress in his real estate classes. It was Elmer's chance to break some wonderful news to her live streaming fan base. They flicked the cover together, waiting to share the results of his real estate exam, and Roberta smiled. Elmer had passed. All that stood between him and an infinite avenue of potential was now a single test. The public's interest in the inspirational relationship between Elmer and Roberta kept growing. Telemundo, a Spanish-language television channel, asked the pair to appear on a broadcast in December to tell their special tale. Elmer disclosed that his brother's unexpected death at the age of 33 served as the impetus for his metamorphosis. Elmer, tormented by bereavement, turned to crime and addiction. He spent 5 spells in prison overall, which caused him to cut off communication with his family, until he was instructed to turn around by a host. Elmer's 2 sisters stood on the stage. As the family celebrated their heartfelt reunion, viewers watched live. Roberta, who had been speaking via a translator, broke down in tears. Another shock struck just as his pulse rate had calmed down after the major disclosure. Elmer's mother made an appearance on stage after they had not seen each other for many years. Everyone started crying at this poignant time. Elmer's choice to act morally had set off a chain of significant events. He had some amazing chances, and Roberta was able to bring him out of poverty. Elmer completed his last real estate test with flying colors in a matter of months, and Roberta put him on the board of directors of her business. Elmer joined the National Association of Realtors because he was driven and determined not to let his skills go to waste. In an odd turn of events, Roberta and Elmer collaborated on a project to aid other homeless individuals through their organization, Outreach Foundation. Their goal was to purchase dilapidated buildings and transform them into short-term residences with additional amenities, better than traditional shelters for the homeless. People would have the same opportunity that Elmer had,